Live from the Motor City, all the way to the Volunteer State. It's time for the Reckless Speculation Podcast, where we recklessly speculate the latest news in the world of sports. From college football to NASCAR, we've got you covered. And don't forget to stick around for the world-famous Bet Your Nuts, where we will give you your best bets to make the most money. Now sit back, grab your favorite drink of choice, and join Robbie Davis, Raj Mehta, Brandon Chain, and Tom Sloan. It's showtime.
What's happening, everyone? My name is Raj Mehta. This is Reckless Speculation. I'm your host for tonight. Before I go on, I want to make sure that everyone knows where to find us. You can find us on Facebook, Facebook Live, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Gratify, Alibi, you name it. Speaking of Alibi, going first to introduce our attorney extraordinaire, Mr. Robert Davis. Robert, how are you?
I am doing well. A good alibi will never lie. That's the tagline.
Tell that to my friend who's divorced. Next, we're going over to Nashville to Chain GPT, who's been discovering for his own independent business owning ventures, just the benefits therein. So, Brandon Chain, what's up, Playboy? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Laugh at that picture comes across every time. I've got to find something new for Tom to put on. I look like a total DV in that picture.
Hey, next weekend we'll have plenty of photo opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
Insinuating the tight fade, bow tie, and Wayfarers and seersucker suit.
I was at a wedding. I've never even seen that picture. Apparently, he scraped it off Facebook or something. But
the depths
still the production is well done. But I look like a creeper there.
The president of your fraternity at Ole Miss or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm way too old to look like that. So let's get the real picture on here. So
keep it real.
No, doing well, man.
Good news. And finally, to the Quincy Jones, producer extraordinaire. I used extraordinaire, but he's the man behind the curtain and apparently in front of the curtain as well. Mr. Tom Sloan. Tomas, how are you?
What's up, fellas? And I did put a request out for new pictures.
I know. It's my fault.
I'm still waiting.
It's not your fault.
I mean, at some point, we can't change how fucking ugly we look. I mean,
right.
Go with something and pin the tail on the donkey, literally. Well, again, welcome, everyone. This is our esteemed panel, and you can see off to your left the rundown of what we're looking at today. We're going to start out with college football and transition into the NFL, and then go to a new segment that we are calling Reckless Takes. That is Tom's brainchild. And it's not going to be your standard segment and questions. We actually want to provoke some sort of thought in theory. I myself am sober because of a meeting in the morning, so I may be able to think. I don't know, but we will see. Finally, we're going to end up with Bet Your Nuts and our final words. So let's start out. Tom, could you please explain the latest development in the new Conference of Champions?
Well, if we remember last week, Washington and Oregon joined the conference, which makes now 4 teams representing the Pacific, Southern Cal, all the way up to the Northwest. So they own the whole coast. So now the Big Ten are 3 time zones. So you can theoretically watch Big Ten football from noon till Big Ten at night, whenever that ends. So
why didn't Oregon and Washington come aboard when USC and UCLA did?
That's a good question, and I don't know if it was a situation where the Big Ten necessarily wanted to go with 4. I personally think they were following suit with the SEC, with them having Texas and Oklahoma joining, and I feel like maybe they were testing the waters out to see if there might be some interest with other schools. Once this thing started rolling, and once it got closer to it, and clearly Washington and Oregon were sitting back there like, hey, we could add lots of value to your conference, and I really think they can. You're looking at 8 teams in that conference that potentially could be top 10, top 15 football teams. So when you're competing with the SEC, who is the top dog, who seems to win national championships every year, you like the odds of having that many teams in your conference that could be legitimate contenders.
I absolutely agree with that. Going to the business side of things, Brandon, did the Big Ten capitalize on the Pac-12's stupidity once again with this addition of Oregon and Washington?
I think so. Tom hit it spot on. I think they were testing the waters at first. Once the Pac-12 started to take a free fall here, I think knowing the future of where it's kind of headed, they jumped on. And now, logistically, it makes more sense to grab more teams over there. All right. You already got 2, right? So let's get a couple more. So scheduling wise, you send a team over there and now they can stay and play 2 or 3 games in that region and vice versa. So that's going to help with the travel. I mean, 2,700 miles from, Rutgers to,
Oregon and whatnot.
Yeah. So I think logistically now they're trying to grab more to help soften that. And also, I mean, you look at these teams and their markets and where they're at. I mean, they're big name teams. So it's definitely going to help the Big Ten, and no one's turning down the money that they're getting right now. And I think that was the biggest mistake of the Pac-12 and their deal with the Apple and what happened there. That was the demise.
And that's a good point. And Rob, I'm going over to you. There's a theory that the Pac-12 commissioner, George Kliavkoff, basically had a very narrow window, and the best he can come up with was a subscription-based model through Apple. The Arizona president, Rollins, said, likened the deal to selling candy bars for Little League.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is this an unfair comparison? Did Kliavkoff just F it up and this was inevitable? What's your take on how this latest development occurred?
Well, so Larry Scott had been trying to get a TV deal. It wasn't happening. This new commissioner, it's tough to sell West Coast specific sports to a big network, because they're all located on the East Coast. And so, this Apple TV, but yet it's not, no one's going to pay a subscription when you're already watching. So, and I don't know why the NFL doesn't do the college model of staggering games all the way out throughout the day, but the college football does stagger throughout the day. So you can watch SEC Big Ten football almost all day, and then you throw on the Pac-12 after dark just as you're going to sleep kind of model. And that's been the problem.
And it's a sport that exclusively plays on Saturdays for the most part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then going back to the Big Ten. So I thought, last week or 2 weeks ago, I said I thought the Big Ten was outflanking the SEC. I've changed my mind since then. I thought them getting USC, UCLA was almost necessary, because they were free agents or they were becoming free agents. You couldn't lose that market to the SEC. You couldn't do that. So they went and got that. All right, that's great. Now, though, I feel like there's kind of like it was almost and like I'm personally happy that Oregon and Washington are in a league in the Big Ten. Personally, for a football fan, a brand fan, but for the Big Ten, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you have more teams on the West Coast. And I've heard some things on Twitter, and it's like, well, yeah, why don't you just put Nebraska and Illinois in the West and then call it the Big Ten and the Pac-10? Like, I mean, they've essentially just done that all over again. And so I don't really the whole Rutgers, Maryland, yeah, they own all 4 time zones, but does it matter in all 4 time zones? And I think that's where the SEC is kind of still held its core right now, is they've got 2 time zones that are obsessed with this sport. And so I still think the Big Ten made moves. I still think the SEC's ahead still.
Why? I think you're absolutely right. And why, Tom, do we have conferences at all? I mean, it looks like you're just going to draw a line and have 2 columns and people beat the shit out of each other. Great question. I think it was by Tim about, where does Notre Dame stack up and fall into all of this? What's next? I mean, is there another round of realignment?
I do think that. I think once this thing gets rolling next year, you're going to see the dominance in those 2 conferences. And I don't foresee the ACC staying around very much longer. And here they're trying to lure Stanford and Cal out to their conference, the Atlantic Coast Conference, with 2 Pacific Coast teams. That's not going to work. That's just not going to work. I think the reality is Clemson's going to jump. Florida State's going to jump. To who is to be determined. Once that happens, that conference is done. And then it basically comes down to Big 12. How long can they compete? They're losing their biggest 2 products in Texas and Oklahoma. But then you look at the basketball aspect of things. They've got a powerhouse conference, you would assume, at the basketball level. So I say within 5 years, you might be looking at 3 conferences, and that's about it. And as far as Notre Dame goes, I just think it's the recipe is there for them to join the Big Ten. They already have a deal with Peacock.
Tom, quick question, and for all of you guys, I just want to know: does the 12-team college football playoff get off the ground at all?
No, because it's going to have to be more. They're going to have to increase it.
Yeah, I think it's dead on arrival. I don't think it
yeah. And it's because of these. Like I said, Big Ten's going to have 8 teams. The SEC is going to have just as many that are right there. So you're looking at a scenario where it's going to come down to like the tournament, the NCAA tournament. Who's going to be your true champion? And I don't think you're going to get it from 12. I think it helps, but with these 2 power conferences and with the third of the Big 12, I just think you're going to have to extend it out. And really, I mean, Notre Dame's going to be left holding the bag, in my opinion, because they're going to look at that extra week. They're going to look at conference championship games. So I think if they make a tournament or they make it, it's going to be a lower seed perhaps because you got to make way to the conference champions at this point. So I think
Notre Dame's the damn MySpace of this whole situation. They are just holding on to this old tradition, and it's like, hey, at some point, these two, it is inevitable. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to merge, and it's going to be a alternative to the NFL. It's just inevitable. And if they're not in one of them, at some point they're going to be being like, oh well, hey, Stanford, Vanderbilt, Cal, let's go have a nice little picnic and let's play some football.
It's trending that way for sure, man. I mean, Notre Dame has stayed outside the pocket forever. Like, maybe we should do a poll. Like, does this Does this push
at
Notre
some
Dame
point,
over
you're
the
the
edge
kid
to like
playing on the
move?
playground by yourself too long, and everyone else is left, and you're like, wait,
Yeah.
where'd everyone go?
And if you
Until
look
you
at
get detention.
in basketball, they're part of the ACC. They play an ACC conference in football for the most part. In hockey, they're part of the Big Ten. So why football? Why are they the lone wolf in this situation? Their TV deal isn't unique because the Big Ten now is part of Peacock, which they are hyping up big time Saturday night, which that's going to steal Notre Dame's thunder, whether they like it or not. And I think within a couple of years, you're going to see Notre Dame deciding, hey, we got to do something. And it just makes sense for them to join the Big Ten.
Well, they can pick and choose. They are part of the Big Ten in hockey.
Yeah.
But in basketball, they're part of the ACC. Mm-hmm. And Brandon, I'm coming to you next as a business owner. Never mind the absolute hypocrisy about the well-being of the student athlete, of their academics, but all of that's obviously getting kicked to the side. But along the same lines, obviously football is the cash cow, but does the NCAA or these programs care that they're going to be operating at a loss for the other 23 sports? You know, women's softball players from Oregon going to freaking Rutgers to, I read multiple quotes. I stayed around home because I wanted my family to see me play, and now I'm going to go to New Jersey. But what about all these flights and hotels and the costs associated with these 23 other sports? I mean, does it even matter, or is football just that big of a deal? Unintended.
For the families that have to travel to go watch, yes, it matters. For the teams, no, because the entire reason they're signing these deals and moving forward in these conferences because they're getting more money, and all expenses paid.
Why not do it football only then? Why do it and make every other sport go through the same thing? And that's a rhetorical question. If anybody has the answer, I think it would have been done.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that's the big thing, and you're not getting big TV deals on baseball and softball. Just you're not. You're getting those deals. That's kind of a trickle down effect from what you got from the cash cow, because it, like Robbie said earlier, it's the second most popular sport, in the United States. So that's what's going to pay, and it's just what it is. It's math. You do the math, the numbers work out, and the hell with the rest. That's just how it works, unfortunately.
Rob?
Yeah, so I made a MySpace reference earlier, and I want to take it to the next tier of this MySpace kind of theme. Is the NFL watching this at all? Or are they too far above this? Or are they sitting here monitoring this and being like, hey, we're just one pin drop from pulling the age limit out, and this all goes to a hell in a handbasket for the NCAA.
That's a great point, dude. It's a house.
It is a good point, but I think to combat that right now,
I'm just asking, do you think they are watching, or is it just we're just too high up? And
you got the NIL right now, which is combating something like that happening.
Yeah.
So, and also,
but you got to think but besides NFL, you get a pension if you play for so long. So the earlier you get there,
but also you got to look at these kids and how much they develop in a year or two in college, strength wise, size wise. They're not ready to go up. In. They are, but I mean, you put a college or a high school kid in a college program, and bulk up, like they're going to gain 20, 15, 20 pounds easily in the first year, and experience. So to just jump right into NFL where you're dealing with grown men who've been on weight training programs for ever.
This is where I'd like to be in the back rooms of these discussions, because Fox and ESPN are big partners with both the Big Ten and the SEC and the NFL. And they've got to be like, hey, we're writing these big checks to both of y'all. Y'all have got to play nice, or because if college if all of a sudden that pulls out, then can we pay the NFL, and how does that all work?
You think
Rob,
there's a clause in there?
I don't know.
Well, I was going to ask you, Rob, as the attorney, that idea and concept, we all kind of understand that, yeah, football, you can't just be 18. You got to be bigger and stronger and smarter. But as an attorney, what are you admitting into evidence? What's conclusive? Who measures that? Is that just kind of something that we all take as a given? You know, what's stopping the NFL? Was it something the NCAA would say?
No. This is so the NFL is a private company, has a requirement. You have to be 3 years removed from high school to be eligible to work for them. Just, the NBA used to have a similar rule. Well, they used to have no rule that you could just, as soon as you were an adult, you could go to the NBA. Actually, I think Kobe got drafted at 17. Now that I think about it, so there was no age restriction.
No.
Now they put in 1 year removed from high school. So, and this is what Maurice Claret challenged, that it's unconstitutional for age restriction. And he said, well, the government cannot restrict age, but a private company, just like you can require a college degree to apply for a job, you can require to be. You don't have to have, it's not an age restriction. You have to be 3 years removed from high school. So you can graduate at 16 and go at 19, but it has to be 3 years removed from graduating high school. So that is just the NFL's requirement. So they can just lift that requirement, but it's collectively bargained. So the players wouldn't necessarily want that. The veterans, because they're getting their pension, the longer they can play, the better. So a young guy is not coming in. But it's all up for negotiations. And, so they can say, hey, in theory, the NFL could say, hey, we're worried about NCAA football. All you guys aged 35 to 40, if you played in the league 2 years, we'll grant you your pension. We'll grant you your health insurance for life. But we got new guys coming in. Negotiate all, lift that age requirement or the years moved from high school. And it's a floodgate of college football players going straight to the NFL.
I mean, that's an excellent point. And I was going to kind of end up with this. I have the theory that, the Big Ten, Tom, had kind of stated that academic synergy matters, that we're not just going to take initially, San Diego State, sorry, any SDSU, but, there was
go Aztecs. They got a new stadium. They're ready for the big time.
I know, dude.
Snapdragon Stadium.
Yeah. I think that was a nudie bar I went to in Toronto. But anyways.
Look out. Hey, now.
I can see the Big 12 geographically. It kind of makes sense. I propose, what about the idea of a non-Power 5, but like a smart people conference that, unlike the Ivy League, can recruit? Cal, Stanford, Virginia, Duke, North Carolina, BC. Could that be feasible on some level? I mean, at least it would make some kind of sense. Or does anybody not give a shit? It's all about. Are we
talking about
TV market? There's not enough TV dollars to pay for the volleyball teams to travel.
Are we talking about like Science Olympiad here, or something to that effect for these schools? I mean, because if that's the case, then yeah, that would be a great power conference. But no, I mean, at this point, it's all or nothing money. And yes, the Big Ten has tried to remain with some semblance of a academic standard. Hence why Rutgers is still part of it, Northwestern. So,
oh yeah, they were part of my nerd conference also.
Yeah. But it does surprise me, knowing kind of their stance, that they don't go after a Stanford, because they kind of fit the mold of teams that are in that conference. They do have a history in the past. They haven't been very good lately, but there is a history there. So will they end up doing that? Because obviously those 4 teams remaining have to go somewhere. And will it be the Big Ten? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that is financially the smart play for the Big Ten. Meets their standards, but I don't think there's a luster of Stanford and Cal.
There are no standards anymore. It's just money.
No, I agree with you there. Agree with you there. And And I think that's one reason why, if they go after Clemson, which, you've heard rumors Clemson to the SEC. If they go to Clemson, their standards are out the window as far as I'm concerned. So,
I mean, I think it's a great transition. The idea that
you're muted, Brandon.
This really is baseless aside from money. And speaking of something that is baseless, we're going to transition, in my opinion, to the NCAA coaches top 25 poll. Brandon, well, I think we got a graphic here that's going to roll it out. We're going to discuss not only our teams, but also who we think are too high or too low. But Brandon, coming to you first, what the fuck is the point of this poll? Is it actually something that has merit? Do coaches actually pay attention? Why does it exist?
I hate preseason rankings in general, and especially coaches poll. Trying to gauge a team based on, some of the acquisitions that you've received and people you've lost. It's so hard to judge that preseason with college. It's not like the NFL where you're bringing in veterans and you've got some history. It's asinine to me. I think it's just a media ploy, like to get a little, rise out of people. Get people starting to get excited about college football and my team's this, blah blah blah. It means dog shit to me. Like it's
all hype.
Yeah, it's all hype. However, I don't disagree with the top 4 necessarily. I think you could interchange probably the top 3 or 4. But Georgia's clear number 1. They lost some, but they recruited really well. Ohio State.
Speaking with you, real quick, what's the argument for Michigan being ahead of the Ohio State University? I'm asking you.
Yeah, better offensive line right now. Defense is still solid. Number 1 ranked running back room right now. Pretty good wide receivers. Quarterback's pretty decent. Ohio State, we lost a lot on the offensive line side. I think that's what's really setting us back. Our wide receiver room's ranked number 2.
How is that number? How are
wide
they
receiver rooms? No, wide receiver rooms ranked number 1. Running back rooms ranked number 2.
Yeah,
behind. So offensively, we've got weapons. Mm-hmm. We're uncertain about the quarterback position right now and offensive line. We lost Paris Johnson, DeJuan Jones, and our center Luke. I can't remember his last name. Whopper. Anyway. We lost 3 big key pieces on our offensive line, and that it's yet to be determined. Like, next guy steps up. We do recruit well, so we'll see. I think it's going to take a little time. Thankfully, we have a soft schedule initially. But yeah, I mean, 4, 5, 10, shit, I don't care. Preseason, it doesn't matter. Like, once you start getting out there and playing, the eye test usually tells what teams are good.
Well, Tom, what about, Tim brought up that point, and I think it's huge. You got new quarterbacks at Georgia after probably one of the best leaders in college football in the last 20, 30 years in Stetson Bennett, I think, in terms of grabbing the reins and kind of leading that team on the field, not making mistakes. The kid just won games. Yeah. We don't know who's starting at Alabama, Milroe or Buckner. Again, back to Georgia, Carson Beck. I think Beck was a 4-star. He's not like, the guy like Peyton Manning or Arch Manning or whomever. And Ohio State, another, I think, a 4-star kid.
Kyle McCord.
Do these matter? Do people not even care, or is this kind of a presumption that the defense is going to carry them until they figure it out?
Well, my opinion is these programs push come to shove, the one thing you never really seem to have to worry about is the quarterback position. And I specifically at Ohio State, it's a factory, collegiate quarterbacks. And the same goes for Alabama. So I think they look at what's around them. Where's their coaching? What kind of coaching do they have? What kind of weapons do they have? And I think that's where they gauge where they're at as far as the rankings go. So obviously, Georgia's got one of the best tight ends maybe ever to come out of college football. He could go in the pros right now. So he's got weapons around him. And like Brandon said, you've got Marvin Harrison Jr., who is one and then the field as far as I'm concerned. So I don't think it's that big of a worry because they have such weapons around them that is going to take a lot of pressure off them. Sure, they're going to have pressure being the quarterbacks of these highfalutin programs. But at the end of the day, we're talking about Georgia. We're talking about Alabama. We're talking about Ohio State, which seems to be quarterback warehouses or factories. And I really think that's what they look at. Maybe Georgia being number one, maybe a little high, but I think you give them that respect for going back to back, and that's probably why they're where they're at. But the reality of these preseason polls at the end of the year, and I'm sure we'll do a rehash when it comes to it, it's going to look a lot different.
Well, we had a discussion earlier, and Rob, two things. One, do you subscribe to that idea that, hey, we're atop the pedestal, so we're automatically number one going into next season until somebody knocks us off? And two, we talked about a team like South Carolina, who you had said is a damn good team, but you acknowledged their schedule and that they're going to lose some games. Therefore, it's okay for them to be at 27. But, if they played, let's say, number 16 TCU on a neutral field, they probably would beat them up. But does that matter? Are we talking about eventual record? Are we talking about best team? How is this calculated?
Well, one, this is the most worthless of all the polls because the coaches don't pay attention to other. Like, it's just a GA sending this stuff in, but it does give you a little starting point of where the committee says they don't look at this stuff. They're lying. They do. Of this group, this top 10 though, I'm going to the other USC, the USC you're interested in, Raj. They get, if I'm not mistaken, they get Utah at home, which has been their bugaboo. Don't really play Washington, but Georgia and Alabama play each other in the regular season. Again, the SEC championship. If they split or one beats the other twice, Michigan, Ohio State play at the end of the year. USC could be sitting there pretty because LSU's at Alabama, Tennessee's at Alabama. So I think USC's in a pretty good spot if they get Utah at home, and then depending on how our Washington game is, everyone else in the Pac-12 kind of sucks.
I wouldn't go that far, but I'm biased. Brandon,
Oregon State, they're okay.
I mean, you got Nix, Michael Penix Jr., the second best receiving group in the country at University of Washington. But I was going to ask, is USC overrated at 6, Brandon? Because a lot of people seem to think so. I don't. But what do you think?
No, looking at this list, I mean, who are you going to put in front of them? I mean, Florida State, no. Penn State, no. Vols, I mean, they lost a lot, so probably no. I mean, I just don't see anyone that you would put in front of them. So overrated? No. But
the schedule does get tough at the end. At Notre Dame versus Utah, at Cal versus Washington, at Oregon.
Well, that'll all be in season. But I mean, preseason rankings. I mean, we can all flip quarters and come up with team names and throw them in there. So as it looks right now, like the only thing I see that's Clemson is terrible. They shouldn't even be in the top 10. Notre Dame shouldn't be in the top 20. Other than that, I don't care about the rest. I'm fine with it.
You don't think Sam Hartnell, the quarterback coming to Notre Dame transfer, is going to elevate them?
Dude, Notre Dame sucks. They always suck every year. They're always up there. They finished 18th last year, and they were like preseason ranked like 5 or 6 or something. Like, I mean, they're stupid.
It's a popularity contest.
Exactly.
Preseason is a popularity contest.
Yeah, I hate
but in basketball, Rob, wouldn't you agree? And by the way, if people are talking about SC or other schools, SC has a very smart coach, and they went hardcore after defense in the transfer portal. Thank God for the portal, getting a lot of SEC studs. So you're going to see a very different defensive team than last year. But Rob, in basketball, it seems like the polls matter, especially early, because if you're at like number 3 and you lose, you can only fall down so far. Same with football, right? I mean, so doesn't this matter?
Well, basketball is a little different because you play twice a week, right? So you can split a week, and especially if you lose on the road and come back and win at home, it's not as punitive as football is. Mm-hmm. Football, you lose, especially if you lose, you get upset at home, you'll drop down, and then it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter how you play the next week. You can't jump someone unless they lose. For the most part, football is just very much. It's been this way since the old AP poll. Like, even if I remember Florida State, Miami growing up, whoever won that game, but they ended up flip flopping. The team that won usually finished behind them because of where they lost in the season, and head to head didn't matter, And that's kind of how football still is. Where basketball is more, hey, let's look at it as overall and who's on the road. And like, if you lose at Rupp, and then beat South Carolina at home, are they going to punish you as much? Not so much.
Yeah. Tom, agree or disagree there, or Shane, either of you?
I do. I think there's more opportunity to rebound in basketball. Pardon the pun. And then
you've been waiting for that all day.
I pulled that right here. I pulled right from here. Right from here.
God, hey, what an assist by Raj!
Man, I tell you, that was nice. But no,
you're grounded.
No, you lose. I mean, you figure in theory with football, if you're going to lose early. That way you can get an opportunity. With basketball, between the length of the season, and like Robbie said, they play 2-3 times a week. They have a nice conference tournament, and then the tournament in the field of 64. So you have more opportunities, I think, in basketball to pick up if you kind of have a rocky season. But with football, it's a small window, and you lose 2 games, your season's over. Basically, the way competition is anymore, it's just if you're going to lose early. That's what you hope for.
So I was going to ask you, Shane, and actually each of you. So 2 questions. Last year, TCU was unranked. So number 1, Shane, who in the top 25 after number 10 can make the playoff, and who's not ranked that should be ranked?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'll start with who's out of the top 10 that can make the playoff. It's Texas.
Why Texas?
Texas is sitting at 12. They're the highest ranked Big 12 team. I mean, they've just got to handle their business.
Which is always
at 16. K-State, Oklahoma. I don't give them any credibility. Let's see
Let's be honest. It's going to be 2 Big Ten and 2 SEC teams again.
No, I think the top 4 are going to end up being again.
I mean, that's it. Like,
if I said after number 9, Rob, make the case for the University of Tennessee making the playoff.
Don't say Joe.
So all right,
here we go.
So we get Georgia. We get Georgia at home. We saw what happened to Alabama coming to Neyland, and what will be the loudest atmosphere of the year.
Yeah.
We host A&M. We play at Florida, but a very beatable Florida team. We travel to what is going to be an angry Alabama team. So it's going to depend on their quarterback situation. If Alabama's quarterback's not right, the thing that scares me though,
Gotta worry about your quarterback.
yeah. So this is what scares me. This is the thing that worries me the most. Kirby Smart watched Nick Saban play Tennessee, and he had 2 weeks to prepare, and Kirby Smart shut down the offense. Nick Saban now has had a year plus to prepare and see what Kirby Smart does. So I'm interested to see what Nick Saban's defense looks like now against this Josh Heupel offense, because he's been able to score against everyone except for Kirby Smart. And so that's going to be the telltale sign.
But back to that's a great question, and it's going to get harder here. But Tom and Brandon, somebody unranked that should be ranked. Either of you, go for it.
I think it's Iowa. I think Iowa, what was their biggest issue last year? They didn't have an offense. I mean, they were running a middle school offense. It was terrible. But their defense has always been good. They add Cade McNamara from Michigan. They add Eric All from Michigan. Ironically enough, they both transfer and they don't play them this year. I think that was one of the reasons why they went to Iowa. But this is a veteran quarterback that's won. He's got a Big Ten championship under his belt. And Eric All was on his way. It took him a couple years to get going, but his last year at Michigan, he was really good. And then, unfortunately, had a back injury. It took him out, and then he transferred. So, we all know Iowa's tight end U. So they're going to find a way to get him the ball, and he's athletic. He can run routes. And like I said, McNamara is experienced. He's a winner. I think they're sitting right now just outside top 25. And looking at their schedule, they have Penn State on the road and then Wisconsin on the road, which, I mean, at that point, any of those teams in the East or in the West, I should say, I mean, there's 2 or 3 teams that are right about the same level, and I think Wisconsin and Iowa fit that mold. So once you get past those 2 teams, I really think Iowa has a legitimate chance to play Michigan or Ohio State in Indy for the Big Ten championship. So I would say that would be a team outside of the top 25 that could find their way higher ranked come the end of the season.
Shane?
I don't have the in-depth analysis Tom does here, but shooting from the hip, looking potentially Pittsburgh. I like.
That's stolen from my pregame notes.
No, they were good last year. Little underrated. Didn't they beat the Vols last year?
No.
No,
2 games to Georgia and South Carolina.
Okay, that was a close game then. Anyway. And well, that was my next one was South Carolina, but
I think South Carolina is a great call. I'm not as high on Rattler, and they lost some guys like Jaheim Bell, tight end transferring, and defensive end, what's his name, going to Oregon. But they bring back a lot, and they showed last year against a certain team from Knoxville that when things click, they can literally blow out and blow up a game. Sorry, Rob. But, yeah, that was definitely the shocker of the year.
They ran out of fireworks.
They definitely, damn, dude.
That was not in Knoxville, but anyways.
It shouldn't have mattered for those that say Hendon Hooker got hurt. It was like 63-5 when he got hurt. But no, I mean, that's a team that UCLA is another team that returns a lot of talent. It's reported that 5-star quarterback Dante Moore is pissed off already. I'm not a Chip Kelly guy. A&M being 25th, just looking at this. I mean, what the fuck? That was a terrible team. Half the kids transferred out. Jimbo is overrated. I have no idea where that's coming from. Going to the final questions. These are yes or no only. Brandon, does Ohio State make the playoff?
Yes.
Tom, does Michigan make the playoff?
Yes.
Robert, does the University of Tennessee make the playoff?
No.
As a USC fan, I think they did enough on defense. They have the best player, but they still don't have the depth across the board to sustain the injuries that the bigger boys have. And I think games like Utah, Washington, at Notre Dame with Hartman, they're going to slip up. And, you know, with the West Coast being the West Coast and the Pac being the Pac, they're definitely going to fall in the eyes of many. So, unfortunately, I'm going to say no. But when you have the best player in the world, anything can happen.
Didn't you say yes or no?
Yeah. Real quick. Percentage-wise.
Actually, Tom's got the ability to mute us. So, I'm going to say no.
All right, percentage-wise, does Georgia three-peat? Tom, what's your percentage?
Ooh.
10%.
10%. Raj?
25.
Brandon?
8.
I'm going to be around 30.
I think their defense will keep them in enough games where the offense will figure it out. That defense looks like it's going to be dominant again. But, yeah, let's transition from what we're going to see on Saturday to what we are going to see on Sunday. And we talked about how we were going to discuss this, the must-see NFL games of the year. And I'm not talking about Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, Redskins, Packers, Bears,
Commanders.
Traditional rivalries. So what we thought of doing is taking one game from our teams, which you guys are both Titans fans at the bottom. So just, I don't know, say something different. And then one game with teams that are not affiliated. I'm going to steal thunder. I think we all know Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, but environments and things can vary. Time of year can make them pretty sweet. So I'll start real quick. I'm a Raider fan, unfortunately. I guess the game I'm most interested in is New England coming to, I can't say Las Vegas. To this day, the Tuck Rule game pisses me off in 2002. It was the last time I was kicked out of a bar, I think. And I lost my fucking mind, and it still makes me mad.
It's number 3. Number 3 per NFL.com as top matches.
Interesting. Well, the other
game in Carolina. What?
It's the rookie quarterback matchup.
Oh my God.
Stroud versus Bryce Young. Well, my other game was actually trying to be different. Was the Dallas and Niners, the catch, offensive defense. It's just something about those two teams lining up down the line of scrimmage. Look at those helmets about to get after each other. So those were my two games. Let's get the Titans fans out of the way here. Brandon, you go first. Titans game that doesn't involve the Titans.
Titans game is Bengals Titans October 1st in Nissan Stadium.
Why?
That's a big game. I mean, we lost him in the playoffs. We've got bad blood there. It's proven. So, looking forward to that game, and maybe we can sack Burrow 10 times this game and win it. So we'll see. I'm going to go week 1. I'm going to have to go Chiefs Lions, man. I'm really looking forward to this game.
That's why I went to you first, by the way.
I know. I stole Tom's thunder. I know he's going to say that, and I'm sorry.
That's why we do this
about this game.
What's the over going to be set at next game?
Dude, as low as it was set last year, I mean, there was not a lot of games over 42, 44. So I would put this one, yeah, especially week one. I would put this one in that range, probably 42 to 45-ish over under. And I'm going to take the over. I think it's going to be a fireworks show. And
Jahmyr Gibbs looks really
dude,
good.
I'm telling you, the
Put your
Lions
money
are
on
the
him,
real
offensive
deal this
rookie
year.
of the year.
Now, are they Super Bowl ready yet? No, but I think they're going to give Kansas City a damn good game, and this is going to be a super fun week one game.
I think the roof on Ford Field is going to blow the fuck off, but we'll get to that. Rob, Titans fan, what do you think in terms of your team and any team?
So I actually am going to be a little dramatic here and say this is one of the most important games in Titans irrelevant regular season history. And I'll tell you why. So we play at New Orleans game
Week
one.
one.
New Orleans rebuilding, Kamara suspended. We should win. If we lose that game,
You lose to Derek Carr, I'm going to be so mad.
and we lose that game, and we come home, and then we play the Chargers, right? Our home opener, it's already the fourth lowest ticket on the NFL for that weekend as far as price to get in. We lose that game, we go 0-2. Then we start talking about trading Tannehill, or we can get rid of Henry. We start being a fire sale. We start 0-2, a new stadium coming. It's just big culture wise that we can't have a shitty season this year. And
Damn,
so
Tennessee fans.
And so
a lot of pressure.
I think that's a really, really big game. If we start off 2-0, then there's momentum and you build. And so that's a good thing.
Real
Overall,
quick, last year, remember they were 21-20 to the Giants, 41-7 to the Bills. They came back, and the Raiders should have beat them. The Raiders went Raider, and then they turned their season around. So why is 0-2 different this year?
Because one, Tannehill's on his end of his contract. There's been talks already about shipping him to Atlanta. Henry's getting older. We have Will Levis that we drafted for who knows why, but he's going to start at some point. It's a team in transition, and if we don't win, people are going to see what we got, and I think it's going to be bad. And then I don't like where the Titans are at right now. I just don't. But the second part of your question, the game I'm looking for the most this year is Week 7, Miami at Philadelphia. I want to see, hopefully, Tua is healthy. Jalen Hurts is healthy. They have studs all over the place.
That's going to be an over game.
Outside of the Mahomes, Josh Allen, that's just a good game that I want to watch.
But it would be, is Jalen Ramsey, I don't know what, he had a meniscus tear. I'd love to see him in that game.
I think he's going to be ready for week one.
Well, that would definitely add to that because you get that guy on A.J. Brown, and we got some fireworks.
Yeah.
All right. So real quick, after this question, we're going to our new segment, Reckless Takes, and Tom's going to take over, and that's why I wanted to finish up with Tom. Not only that, but you could just see the optimism, passion, fire that's been building in Detroit, a city of just some of the biggest loyalists ever, but have just had lovable losers for decades. But now, this is a legit playoff team. Tom has one of the newest Detroit Lions season ticket holders. Congrats. Tell us your favorite games involving the Lions, and you can say as many as you want because you're hosting the next segment, so fucking do your thing.
Well, I think to use an old sports radio adage. Brandon stole my thunder with Lions Chiefs. I agree 100%. That line actually dropped to 6.5, and I think it's going to get a little bit lower as the game nears. The NFL believes in the Lions. I'm not eating the cornbread quite yet on the Chiefs. I love the confidence coming out of Allen Park. So we will see. That's a high pressure game, but then you turn around and Kansas City's going to raise the banner. They're going to get their rings. So I think there's a little bit more pressure for the Chiefs, but definitely a good
over there. And I was upset that this game is not in Detroit.
I mean, the champion's got a host.
Yeah, you got to give the respect to the champion, and the fact that they picked the Lions tells you that the league believes in the Lions, and we're gonna find out real quick if they're the real deal or not. But another game I'm looking at, their home opener against Seattle. It'll be interesting to see if Geno Smith can kind of follow the success he had from last year. He got a contract. So, and that is the game essentially that knocked the Lions out of the playoffs last year because Seattle beat the Lions at home. I was at that game. That was disappointing. Pretty bad officiating, but we won't go there. But it'll be interesting to see how they come back and how Geno plays, how they defend him. He was spot on last year, and they were going for the deep ball. Detroit's made a lot of new additions on the defensive end. And the game I'm most excited about, and it's a game that hopefully you come up to attend with me, the Monday night game against the Raiders. It's the first time the Lions have been on Monday night in quite a while. And definitely the league has confidence in them with the Thursday night game against Kansas City. But this one's going to be interesting. Yes, the Raiders are kind of on the downslope, but Jimmy G, if he's on, he's on. So it's going to be a good game. So it's one I'm really excited to see. Ford Field is going to be unbelievable to be a part of, especially that game. And yes, you mentioned I am a ticket member. I am really excited. So I'm just fired up for the possibilities. My plate there says "Restore the Roar." Restore the Roar. That was the moniker back in the early '90s when they were halfway decent with Barry and fellow USC quarterback.
Hey, he's getting a statue. I'm excited.
Yeah, he's going to be the first line to have a statue. Yeah. They're unveiling it, I believe, next week. So that'll be pretty cool. He deserves it. But
yeah, as someone who I've been to a few Monday night games, obviously it was a long time ago with the Raiders, but they're definitely fucking different and they're really cool. And you kind of build up all day, and it's just that game on. And people in Detroit are going to be out there from the Monday before, probably waiting for that thing. And Raider Nation travels. So yeah, that's going to be awesome. I can't believe I'm saying this, but just because it's weird, but Detroit is an exponentially better team, and we're probably going to get throttled. But if Jimmy G is healthy, then with Devontae, anything can happen. So, yeah, I agree. That's going to be a fun one, and I'll be there. I'll figure out whatever it takes. What about a game not involving the Lions?
I like December 3rd. The 49ers travel to Philly. Now, it's Eagles, 49ers, Lions on the power rankings at the moment in the NFC. So those top two teams right there, who's going to be the quarterback of the 49ers? That's going to be interesting too.
All right. I've changed my most interesting day. I'd forgotten about this, so I was looking through the schedule. The NFL is doing a big FU to NBA. Remember us talking about this last 6 months ago?
Christmas Day,
they're putting 3 games on. Vegas, Kansas City, New York, Philly, Baltimore, San Francisco. Bye-bye NBA owning Christmas Day.
Yeah.
It's
game
an
over.
Absolute.
They're ruthless.
It's an absolute all right, little brother, just we let you win a few and Now I'm
Right.
going to step on your head.
Hey, that makes Christmas Day so much better. I'm so happy.
Never mind family and the spirit of giving and all that shit.
Yeah,
Football, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Football.
Yeah.
But on that note, Tom, taking it over.
Well, yes, as you mentioned before, we're going to have a little fun with the Reckless Takes. I am hosting this segment. I am Tom. And I am going to start with the golfer in the house, Brandon Chain. We spoke earlier about Bryson DeChambeau. Kind of a crazy story coming up. The way he kind of broke into the golf game, built up his name, and then he kind of faded away. Seems like he's reclaiming his name in the Live Tour. Shot a sub 60. You said a 58. Is that an impressive score, and is it comparable to kind of go up against the PGA once that finally happens?
Yeah, it's an impressive score. That there's only been 4 other players in competitive PGA Tour events that have shot anything. A 58. I mean, that's been it. A lot of 59s, a lot of 60s, but only 4 58s, including his. So, yeah. So when he first came on the scene, he was just kind of a weird dude. Mad scientist, blah, blah, blah. Then he got even weirder, like started bulking up, trying to, gain all this muscle to get speed and blah, blah, blah. I think what happened, and this is just reckless speculation,
That's what we do.
he got paid and went to the Live Tour and was like, I can just play golf for fun now, and I don't really care. I think that's figuratively speaking, but he cares about golf and the game, and he's a competitor. But I didn't like this dude in the PGA. Like when he was just so weird and just off-putting and just awkward, and he's really mellowed out since he's went to the Live Tour. And obviously, as we talked about, a month or so ago, probably 2 months now, the Live Tour is not going away, or at least the PGA guys in it. And there's a new thing coming, so you're going to see a lot more of him. I actually like the guy now. I think he's more grounded, more down to earth. He's back to his old self. If you look at pictures of him entering the PGA Tour versus his, mad scientist era and versus now, like he looks just like he did when he came in, So, but no, a 58 is ungodly impressive. I mean, 12 under, it's insane on any course.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you look at him, he's kind of deflated, but I guess he's decided the game doesn't need to be the biggest hitter, but it's the most efficient, and it seems like that may be the direction he's going.
Yeah, golf is 150 yards in, man. That's all it is.
Robbie, I'll go to you with our resident NASCAR fan, and this is kind of a two-pronged question. We had a situation where a driver got suspended indefinitely, Gregson, for some distasteful comments he made about George Floyd on Twitter. What is your opinions of high-profile athletes? I know he wasn't really a high-profile athlete, but athletes in general taking to social media. It seems like it's a trap, so to speak. Are you for it or against it?
Well, so I think there needs to be coaching whenever you enter any kind of fame situation. Look, you can build your brand through social media. What you don't need to be, though, is opinionated too much. You can have your views, but know that you have bosses, right? And you work for companies. And so there needs to be a whole civics class taught in high school about what the First Amendment means because no one clearly understands it. But and so like know that if you do something that's controversial, you may get a lot of likes, but there's also consequences. So just kind of promote yourself if you want to get on social media. But don't do anything that's even somewhat controversial because there can be consequences and it can cost you your career. And the I don't know this driver all that well to know how good he is or how good
It's
he
a rookie
can
season
be.
too.
Like obviously, look, the better you are, and this is not right or wrong. This is just society, right? This is just the market, right? So Kyle Larson made probably one of the worst mistakes you can make. He got suspended for a year, and then he went back and won the championship or competed champion. He's really, really good. This guy, and I'm not excusing. I'm just saying this is how life is. Like
Right.
we have at some point we have to grow up and be like, hey, we're not. It's not fair. Fair is where
There's more leniency.
Yeah.
The
Fair is
higher
where
profile
pigs
you
get
are.
slaughtered. There's no
Right.
fairness. It is just ability meets opportunity, and for better or worse. And so, yeah, if you're a fringe driver, athlete, worker, you're looking for a job and you are maybe not qualified, or maybe you're just fringe qualified, clean up your social media, stay off social media. I'm like, sorry, that's a long rapid take, but I'll shut up.
Oh, it's all right. It's perfect. I mean, that's the dark side of social media.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to go after.
Can I say something personal real quick?
Go for it.
Yeah. So, as I think everyone knows, I applied for a judgeship recently in last year. So, in a very conservative state, I am a very liberal person. I lived this firsthand. I had to pay a company to scrub my social media because I needed it to look a certain way. And did I regret what I said? No. I didn't get the job, and probably that's why, because they were ahead of me. But it doesn't matter.
That's why you're on the show now.
yeah, I don't need the job. I mean, I'm glad. I'm thankful for the governor for interviewing me, all that. Thank you, all that process. But yeah, it's real, and there are real life consequences. And that was not my one career running on it. I still have a career, but yes, like people need to know that, and that's real life.
Right.
Whether you're an athlete or a private citizen, whether you're applying for any kind of job. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
got a friend, Matt, who was a minor league umpire.
Yeah.
And there was like anything on, like if he drank a beer, someone took a picture, he's like, you can't take a picture of me, don't post anything of me. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's consequences in what you post. So Raj, I'll come to you. Obviously disappointment in the Women's World Cup. Team USA eliminated. Was it a situation where the weight of the world, so to speak, was on their shoulders? The reigning World Cup champions. There was a lot of pressure outside of the sport for some of the well-known players' stances on some views, LGBTQ views and whatnot. And then the other side is the response by some media members to them losing. It was almost jovial. Is that fair? Seeing where that they kind of were outspoken. Some of them were outspoken on their stance and their beliefs. They lose. The media comes in and doesn't think that they're representing America because they weren't singing the national anthem, so they got a lot of flack on that. Was that fair? And was there too much pressure on that team to win?
No, I mean, it absolutely was not fair. And I think you can tell this was more, at least in the young ladies' minds, about, it wasn't just about winning and losing. There is a weight there that they carry, and it's not just for the country. People were angry, like, okay, we set the standard, we win gold. Otherwise, it's almost un-American. They were mad. People that know nothing, dick about, well, bad choice of words, but know nothing about soccer at all, or women's soccer. Like, we didn't win gold. That's un-American. That's then suddenly spotlight's portrayed on other things. But, the Women's Professional Soccer League started up in 2011 after Team USA was sort of runner-up in the Women's World Cup. And then from there, the U.S., this momentum surged, and, youth soccer and all these things. And then came gold medal or gold World Cup gold. And it seemed to me that they're carrying more than just a sport. They became part of popular culture. Today it would be canceled, but if people remember Brandi Chastain, and there was a Kevin Garnett commercial with her playing foosball, and she scored a goal, and he goes, what's up with the shirt? Because she slid on her knees and took off. She had a tank top on her knees, but they became part of popular culture, and suddenly this entire foundation that's been built up, all the momentum for 15 to 20 years or so, seems like unfairly to a lot of people was just pulled out from under them, and it's absolutely unfair.
Yeah, I mean, to consider them un-American, I don't think that's fair. And I have faith in that program. Obviously, the women's program in regards to soccer in this country. Not a very well-versed soccer guy here, but they have been kind of the leader of the pack, we'll say. And unfortunately, they don't advance, but I think that fuels their fire. So
yeah, just side note, and don't forget, part of the anger possibly could be they collectively bargained to get paid as much as the men.
Yeah, and they should because I mean, look at the stats, look at the wins and just kind of the track record. They're a better program, and yes, the American team is making strides, and you mentioned in your notes, Messi coming to this country. I think that's going to only enhance the American viewpoint of soccer. So we'll get to that
awesome, by the way, since he's been here.
Yeah, we'll get to that on another show when we can dive a little bit deeper into what he means and what he brings to soccer in this country. But I want to talk about something, maybe the positive side of social media. A negative situation, and I'll play a clip right here. And if you haven't seen the clip yet, it's the Baltimore Orioles TV play-by-play guy. He was being very transparent, and I don't think he said anything outlandish. He was just kind of talking about the history of the team. So I'm going to play this clip if you haven't seen it. And on the other side, was it warranted to be suspended? Check out the clip.
Brandon Hyde has felt like this has been maybe the toughest ballpark to play in, but the Orioles have a chance to do something special today. They've already clinched at least a split in the series, winning 2 of the first 3, and they could pick up a series win behind Tyler Wells today. It's been a minute. The Orioles split a 2-gamer with the Rays in June. They had lost their last 15 series here at Tropicana Field. You have to go back to when our now colleague Brad Brock picked up the win in the series finale, June 25th, 2017, the last time the Orioles won a series here at St. Pete. Already got 3-2 at the Trop this year after winning 3 of 18 the previous 3 years combined. It is a stark difference, Ben, and it is not a bad Rays team. It's not like all of a sudden the Rays became slouches in the American League East. They've led this division every day, but now 2, and the Orioles once again are back alone in first place. Yeah.
So to kind of backtrack here, he was being very transparent, talking about the Orioles' kind of troubles that they've had at the Trop, which a lot of teams do. It's hard to play in that place with the very bright roof, and let's face it, the Rays have year in and year out have been one of the better teams. So he basically brought the history of recent Orioles series but then kind of brought it back to say, hey, you know what? We've taken 2 of 3. It's definitely not that way anymore. Well, he got suspended because the owner looked at him and thought that he was speaking negatively towards the Baltimore Orioles baseball organization. And when I tell you that the outpouring of support for him on Twitter and TikTok, I mean, my For You pages were nothing but people. Michael Kay, the Yankees announcer. I mean, any well-known announcer, the guys out in San Diego, I mean, they actually put the camera on them and looked at the camera and said, "Shame on you, Baltimore Orioles. This is a sham." He's one of the best announcers in the game, best young announcers in the game. He was being very transparent. And the funny thing is, the Yankee announcer was like, "We would have been fired a long time ago if we weren't allowed to speak how we want about the Yankees. They're horrible. Their offenses, they stink." And it just goes to show that these announcers are so worried about ramifications that they can't be transparent. To me, if I'm listening to a ball game and my team is down, I would prefer to have my announcer saying why they're down in his opinion. So it gets to the internet. It goes viral. People are up in arms over it. He'll be back on Friday. So Robbie talked about maybe the negative side of the internet. This is a positive side of the internet where a story that really, not a lot of people were talking about the other day. Boom, it hits the mainstream, blows up. Now the guy will be back. And he'll be a hot commodity come this postseason. So I think he'll have lots of options. Lots of options. And objectivity. I don't blame you. The Orioles kind of showed their hand here, and ownership should be ashamed of themselves. But I am glad to see that he's going to be back, and a lot of Orioles fans will be too. They were chanting him the other night in the stands, so pretty cool. But I'm going to kick it back to you, Raj, but not after we watch this video.
It's time for Bet Your Nuts.
All right, I'm going to get mine out of the way first with my nuts. I've been doing pretty well, knock on wood. I still have my balls with baseball. Tom is not going to like this. Tomorrow, I'm all over former Dodger Kenta Maeda. I just blanked. Against the Detroit Tigers at minus 150. Maeda has given
the Tigers.
Absolutely. He's given up 1 or 2 runs his last 3 starts, and he's facing Reese Olson, who is 1-5. The Tigers have lost the last 6 starts that he's had, and these last 3 games given up, I believe, 5 earned runs per game. So I am all over. I'll take the 150 and lay it down on Maeda and the Twins against the Tigers. Next, let's go to Tom.
I'm going to go a 2-pronger here. NFL sacks for Aiden Hutchinson, over or under 10.75. I'm taking
long-term investments here.
Wow.
I'm taking the over. I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to have a huge year. He's got some help on the other side. James Houston, who had 7 sacks in 8 games last year as a rookie. I think he's going to increase that. So Aiden Hutchinson over 10.75. That's plus 100. And I'm going to stick with the Lions. I'm the cornbread's in the oven. The cornbread's in the oven. But
got a weak division. He's feeling confident.
Plus 700, folks. Plus 700. To make it to the NFC Championship game and lose. Plus 700 right now.
Hey, the Titans are plus 100 for the Super Bowl.
Plus 100?
Yeah.
What? Are you high?
They are.
You mean 10,000?
No.
To not make it?
No, to make it.
To not make it?
No, 100 to 1. 100 to 1. Sorry.
I was going to say plus 100. That's the best odds in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Who did they sign?
The Eagles.
No, the Chiefs are plus 600. Sorry.
Plus-
Classic mix-up. Classic mix-up.
We're all looking at you like,
Bet you're nuts.
all right, this guy's fucking finally lost it. Brandon Chain, your bet you're
Oh man, so NFL is back, boys. We do have preseason, although it's hard to watch sometimes. My boy CJ Stroud is going on Thursday, and he was named the official starter. So I'm looking at this Texans-Pats game.
preseason bet.
Preseason NFL bet. I was good on the Hall of Fame game. I had the over. It was 34.5. I had it, and it hit at 37, I think, or 36, something like that. So I'm looking at this one as well, and most people would love to play the over here. I'm going to take the under 37. Under 37, minus 110. Thursday night preseason, Texans, Pats.
Just going to be sloppy Thursday night.
Yeah, it's going to be
You know your
terrible.
football.
Where is that game at?
In New England, I believe.
All
And
right.
it's, yeah, I mean, he'll probably play 2 or 3 series, and it's going to be just field goal after field goal. And
you know, Belichick's not showing shit, man.
No,
I mean,
they're not showing.
that's week one.
Take the
I think
under.
that's
a
really
solid
smart play.
Will Matt
Really
Jones be the
smart
quarterback, starting quarterback in week 1?
Who?
All right.
Jones.
So
Well, wait, Rob, do we need to fact check your odds here, whatever you're going with, before you say like
Get
what
Snopes
you're
up.
betting on? Yeah, you're just making up your own lines. Like
Someone tell him we have local bookies here, and he doesn't have to go overseas. Where he gets
do
his
Vegas.
pretty sure. All right. I think I got this one under control.
Kyle
So they're going to the Brickyard at Indy this weekend. So another road course. And so the guy who won Chicago road course is coming back over from New Zealand. He won it in July. So this is the second race ever in NASCAR. He won his first race ever. I think this guy's a little unicorn on these road courses, so I'm betting him again. His name is Shane Van Gisbergen, and he is plus 1,000 or 10-1 for kids.
You got to know how to pronounce his name if you're going to bet on him, right?
I just pronounced it, you idiot.
I don't know, dude. Phonetically, I don't know who that is.
Is he German?
All right, Shane Van.
He's from New Zealand,
New
but it's
Zealand.
background. Anywho,
You heard it. You heard it here first.
that is who I'm going for this weekend.
Okay.
I love it. How you been doing on your NASCAR? I've not caught up with that. One of my buddies, actually my sister-in-law's husband, Derek, said, hey, you know, that guy, I've told a few buddies out at UPS about him listening to our show, and he's made some money on NASCAR. And I was like, really? Like, I guess you had a hot streak with, was it Kyle Larson or someone?
That was year 1 or 2. Yeah. Since then, not so much.
You made multiple employees money at one point at UPS Knoxville. So
Kyle Larson went on a hot streak. I think it was last year's the year before. One of those years. He won like 6 races in a row, or 6 out of 8.
Well,
I think this year when football starts, like actual football, not preseason, let's start a tally on our bet your nuts and call it out every week or whatever. So
I'm with you, dude. We need a scoreboard.
Just a scoreboard for the fans to say, hey, really listen to us, or don't pay any attention to what we're betting on right now, because we're gonna lose you money. Like, fade us.
Absolutely. Going in now, we're at the hour 24 mark. It is the non-football season, so we get a bit theoretical, but we're going now into final words. I'll go first again. I'll be brief. The conference realignment should be football only. Just do football. Don't subject other sports. Again, there's 23 other sports, other genders, other individuals. Don't subject them. And the whole point of college is to learn something, and their ability to study it and strive and realize academic goals. All of these things are severely under threat just because of people wanting, more money because of football. And, it's like people have said, it's you go to college locally and I guess I'm going long here, but, so your family can see you and you can learn something and focus on something that you're interested in. And this is basically towards the antithesis of that thought, of that reasoning. And it's just absolutely not about anything but money, and academics and the well-being of the student is just completely thrown to the side. And I think it's sickening, so hypocritical. But next, let's go. I'm going to end with Tom. He usually has a weighty, most significant and honest, passionate thing to say, where the three of us are a bunch of shallow assholes. But I'm going to go to Rob next, then Shane, and then Tom, you can close us out. Rob?
Yeah, so looking at this NFL schedule, this weekend of Christmas, we have Saturday, the 23rd games, Christmas Eve games. The Titans have a home game, and we have Christmas Day games. This is unbelievable. I have never been more excited about any 3 days in my life. This is no family time. This is just strictly watching football time. This is like I go away for Thanksgiving, so I'm good there. This is my Christmas break, and then I've got something over New Year's. This is like the COVID years, but with shit to do.
You literally look like a kid on Christmas morning right now.
This is the most exciting ever. The COVID years, I was down in Florida. I was by myself, but it was cool. I could just zoom in for Christmas. This is like not even having to zoom. This is purely just football for 3 glorious days. No work. This is perfection. Thank you, NFL. Thank you.
He said for Thanksgiving, we got games, so I'm good there. Never mind everything else.
Yeah. Hey, Raj, as I tell my wife and my family, I don't make the schedule. I just observe the schedule.
That was brilliant. That's a tough act to follow. Shane, your thoughts, your final words?
Final words. Back to the college football realignment here. Let's not forget, it's a business first. Although we think and we're made to think it's about education, it is not. This is a business first. They're all in it for the money, just like any other business. And education might be 4th or 5th in the line. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about these transitions.
Absolutely. Tom?
Well, you kind of segued to a T here, Raj. We lost a good one in Detroit. Radio guy Jim Price played 5 years with the Tigers. He's been in the booth with Dan Dickerson for years. This guy was just a welcome voice in summer for all baseball fans in Detroit. Well-known Jim-isms, we'll call it. He was very colorful in the booth. He would refer to Miguel Cabrera as the big fella, batting third, the big fella. And when he got around on a good one, he would call it a buggy whip. And a good curveball, he would call it the yellow hammer. And there would always be a fan of the game, and it would say, Tom Sloan from South Lyon, Michigan. And Dan Dickerson would call that, and Jim Price in the back would go, nice area. It was baseball. It was pure. Ernie Harwell was the original voice. Jim Price followed suit. Just a great presence. Made you really feel part of the game, part of the action through the radio. Storied career in the booth. Loved the city, loved the state of Michigan, and he will be missed. It was a pretty sad day. He started the season in the booth, and about 2 months ago, he abruptly had to actually in the middle of a game. It was about the 5th inning in a game. He had to leave. He had an emergency, and they never really said why. And then we got the news yesterday that he passed. So just a sad day. And the Tigers went out and pitched a shutout yesterday, 6-0, and they won tonight. So they memorialized him before the game. Just a cool experience for the Tigers. But the voices of good old fashioned baseball are you know what? You know it all too well, Raj. They're fading, and it's the sad reality that we live in as baseball fans. But Jim Price, who will be missed, and so
it's well said.
Well said.
For myself, Raj Mehta, Tom Sloan, Brandon Chain, and Robert Davis, I'm going to close out with, folks, don't forget to touch them all, just like Jim Price would say. When a Detroit Tiger would hit a home run, he came up with the touch them all. So, folks, tomorrow, do your best and touch them all.
You got it. We'll see you guys.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Reckless Speculation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, searching Reckless Speculation. Catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We look forward to catching you right here next week with another exciting episode of Reckless Speculation.